I am now recording. All right. Well, welcome. I am Kathy Kitts, and today we're speaking with Susan Nicolai about her art, creativity, and inspiration. So welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Let me tell you a little bit about her. And so I'm going to read this. I'll get it right. Susan Nicolai is a digital story artist exploring the transformative power of multimedia storytelling. Her work is a fusion of texture, color, photography, words, and stories. Much of her inspiration comes from a technique called lucid daydreaming, and I promise we'll talk about that in a moment. And she uses this to tap the deepest levels of her imagination, expand her creativity, self-knowledge, and well-being. She resides in Charlotte, North Carolina, with her inspiring and supportive significant other, Joe. And welcome.
Well, thank you, Kathy. I'm so glad to be here.
This is great. I have to tell you, your ebook absolutely blew me away. It's so much better than, well, most of the multimedia DVDs that show up in packages. You look at them, you're like, who did this? And it was also interesting because it was so much better than what magazines are trying to do now for the iPad and Surface and all these other sorts of things, where basically what they do is they take their print magazine and they put it in a PDF and say, hey, look, we have links. Well, that's nice. They just don't understand how to storytell yet. They don't understand to use the technology, and that's one reason why I'm so excited to talk with you. And I promise we are going to talk about inspiration in a moment, but I'm going to be selfish, and I'm going to ask you a couple of personal questions first about how you did your ebook, because it was just so cool.
Oh.
So, let's see here, because digital storytelling really is your superpower. I was really impressed by that. Like I said, you did so much better than what's out in the market. So here's my first question. How did you actually create the works of art you include in your ebook?
Well, actually my art starts the good old-fashioned way with paper and canvas. I use a lot of colors, so usually it's watercolors, it's dyes, glazes, textures, good old-fashioned rubber stamps, ink, stencils. So I actually create my work, and sometimes the work itself, like when I'm just looking at the piece of paper or the canvas, I don't even love it.
Oh.
Well, I don't love it until I get the camera. And then using that lens is to me when the magic happens. Because a macro lens gives you just an amazing shallow depth of field, and it also adds a lot of shadows, and it's fantastic for just kind of ethereal feel to this kind of abstract stuff that I play with. So that's kind of how my work starts. And then I put it in lots of different, I use the Adobe Suite, which has, I subscribe to the full package, but they do have, I started with just Lightroom and Photoshop. And it's on the cloud, and this is like, $9 or $10 a month. And you can access these tools that are, to me, that's like, whoa, it's like the superpower, because it just gives you infinite ability to kind of play with color and with light and with texture and special effects. And, you just start small, and then as you continue to go, you continue to build on that. And there's lots of tools out there. Other artists that are, marketing, like somebody has gone to the trouble of creating a certain action that you can then purchase and use that. And you don't have to go through the, 100 steps or so to create that effect. Somebody has already created that, but you're still using it on your own work. So, there's a lot of sharing going on in the digital art world. Lots of people are creating their own. Adobe puts everything at your fingertips, really, truly, with the iPads and the mobile technology. You can, they've got apps like Adobe Capture that you can just snap a picture if you're not an artist, and you see a shape that you like, it will draw that shape for you. And wow. Yeah, you can take that shape, and then it becomes a brush in your palette that you're painting with in Photoshop or Illustrator or Lightroom. Adobe has really done a good job there in putting those tools at your fingertips. But for the digital storytelling, I actually did invest the time and energy in learning InDesign, because it's a super powerful tool that works with both text audio, video. You can really put everything together in one single package. And they just came out with this year an e-publishing platform. So with a push of a button, you can upload what would be a ginormous file. And it resides and lives in the Adobe Cloud. And you just share that link so people can then access your ebook. There's a wide variety of ebook publishing platforms. Kindle has their own, iBooks has their own. So there are different technologies if you wanted to take it a step further and really publish it for marketability. I'm not quite there yet.
Well, I don't think the market is either, because one of the issues, and this was a question I have for you as a follow-up, because a lot of people still have the really creaky, bad internet. And so it's really hard to enjoy some of these new technologies because, I'm still rubbing two sticks together to make fire out here where I live.
Oh, yes, I know. And that's frustrating because, as an artist, you want people to be able to experience it the way that you designed it to be experienced. So it is frustrating when on my end, I'm seeing everything and somebody's like, oh, I didn't even know there was audio there. I was like, oh, yeah, when you flip the page, it should automatically play. And, for whatever reason, sometimes the technology can be disappointing.
Well, you're cutting edge, so.
Yeah. Well, this is new stuff. Actually, this is new, and Adobe comes out with new stuff. They're upgrading. They automatically upgrade these softwares all the time and add new features. So it's a challenge to keep up with it.
Yes, I was going to say. Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you. So now that I've gotten my digital fix, I'm going to ask you some questions about inspiration, because obviously one thing that was so wonderful about your ebook also was how it was so inspiring. And your videos, after watching some of your videos, like, yeah, I want to go do art.
Oh,
so wonderful. And
that's what I want. Yes.
Well, that's perfect, because I found that you have, well, let me give some examples in case someone hasn't actually seen your ebook yet. You have a tutorial on how to create an art godmother, which I thought was brilliant. You lead us through an imagined conversation with this muse and how to access her for support and inspiration. You outline how to access our creative superpowers. You also introduce the concept of lucid daydreaming. And these are all really fantastic tools. So just for the few people who may not have seen your ebook yet, could you please describe those for us so that we know more about them?
Well, they sound like they're different things, but actually it all gets down to the same thing. This creative superpower, lives and breathes inside all of us. But at different times, we need different ways of sinking into it, and that's what I kind of talk about in the diagram where I say, okay, now you're in your logical mind. You hear the way you tap that differently when you're using your logical mind than when you're, say, in a state where you're about ready to fall asleep at night. You're going to be experiencing more visuals, you're getting close to that dream state. So it just comes through, we all have different emotions throughout the day. We have different levels of alertness. Sometimes, we're actually doing a logical task. And so you have to look for things differently. When you're using that logical side of your brain, you might be seeing patterns. You might be seeing things that appear to the left side of your brain as opposed to the right side of your brain. So the creativity is always there. And I think, each person operates differently as to, which works more easily, which one they're more comfortable with. And so that's really what this is all about. The art godmother, it could be whatever you want to call it. I find it easier to actually give it a name or character, because then you feel like, okay, if I'm going to ask a question, which is what I invite you to do to actually engage in the dialogue, I like to think of it as it's not just a black hole question that, nobody's going to answer. If you actually say, well, I have this art godmother and she'll get back to me, you're giving it to a real person and you're expecting a real answer back.
Really, it completely works.
Yeah, well, I won't say real person, but, yeah. You can engage in that conversation more. You start to hear a voice. And, I I do use a pencil most of the time because that helps me see it and go back to it later, So I like to keep journals, and that's where my dialogue happens.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, as a recommendation, what if an artist is stuck I can't say the word today. I can't
creatively.
Creatively. There we go. Thank you. So if they're stuck like that, if they're really stuck in that word, what do you recommend that they do first? Because you give them so many good tools. And if they're just stuck, where should they go? What should they do?
Well, it's interesting. When you say the word stuck, you feel resistance. So that could be, any form. It could appear procrastination, just a block. You need to, first of all, explore that feeling to see if there's anything there that it's trying to tell you. For example, I think when we talked, you said, well, the character was no longer feeling juicy. I was not excited to work. And creativity has to flow from this energy of excitement. We aren't making, we're creating. Okay. And there's a difference. Okay. If you're making, it's going to feel like work, and it's going to feel like you should do it and you have to do it. But creativity should never feel that way. It should always come from this place of inspiration. And if you aren't inspired, if you're having a block, that's when I would ask. I would say, okay, what about it is making me not want to go forward? Okay, and that's where you write your question down. And it could be, well, you got to get rid of this character. You got to kill off this character. He's not smart enough. Then you can go back and take your then you might be inspired to do something next. And that's really what I do. And if I don't get the answer the first time, okay, well, all right, I know the background's terrible. Okay, how do I fix it? So just keep asking that next question, and then you'll get an idea. Well, and it might be, the answer might be just take a break for now. It might be circle back later, work on something else. So I do try to shift the energy, because your work is sacred. It's important work that we have to do, and it's not something that should be plotted through like we're manufacturing or we're making, because we're not.
Oh, that's very nice. I like that. Yeah, that's absolutely true, because you got to find the joy in it. You got to continue having fun, because that's another stuck that people suffer. They just, they start mass producing and the joy goes right out of it.
So, it does.
So, do you have any other techniques you'd like to share, to help us move along, to stay inspired, to keep in that fun?
Yeah, well, I have my go-to things, and I think that's what you really should find for yourself. One of my go-tos is photography. I can pretty much always pick up my camera, take a walk outside, or just pick an object to study, because I work with macro photography, so it doesn't take much. It could be, a pretty piece of fabric, or just an object, a piece of glass. I can do a lot with that. So I would say, so that you can keep your momentum going and keep your creativity flowing for you, and for you it might be something different. Maybe yours is reading poetry, or reading Dr. Seuss, or just have something that you can go to, and it gets you engaged and having fun. And for me, that other happy outcome of that is I've built a huge pile of resource material, because I do this photography. I'll go do a shoot, and a normal shoot for me will be 200 images. Wow. And when I'm done, I just upload those, on the Dropbox. And then, when I'm bored, I can always pull those in Lightroom and play around with them. There's always something there to work with that I see later. Might not be right off the bat. Like when I first take an image, it may look like nothing. But then if I pull it into Lightroom, where you have all those tools at your fingertips and you can play with everything, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well, that image does look kind of cool. And then you might remember some other image and bring those two together. And it just it builds from there. So to me, it really, there's always creative possibilities. And my go-to is my camera.
All right. Well, that does make sense, because if you have a body of work, so it's kind of like the work causes its own inspiration.
Yeah, it does build. I mean, yeah.
All right. Because my next question is, if we think about musicians, I believe they just found a bone flute that's 80,000 years old. And for painters, we know we have the cave paintings that's 35,000 years old. So you have this really long history of all kinds of places you can look for inspiration. But what you do is so new. I mean, where do you go for inspiration? I mean, obviously you have your photography, but these other digital tools, where do you go?
Yeah, and there is so much. It's exponential. It's like the universe is expanding with regards to digital. Of course, Pinterest, most people are aware of Pinterest, and it's just a visual, delight. For me, there's really a lot out there. And there's also Behance, which is Adobe's creative platform for professionals to share work. And it's really cool, because these are people that are doing the creative work on commercials and movies and all over the world. And you can see them, a variety. It's a huge variety. Of course, you've got Etsy, which is a little bit different, but still some great creative people out there. There's a ton of photography sites out there. The stock photography sites, there's stock video out there. Really, the digital, and it continues to expand every day. So even though it's rather new, it's just growing exponentially, and it's like a big playground.
Wow, yeah, I imagine that actually it's probably the opposite from my question. That is, how do you actually find it in all of that stuff?
Yeah, it's more of a filtering process, right? Yeah, you just have to pick and choose. And this is something new for me that I am learning through Ignite, and that is to give yourself a theme to work with. And that has been really, I just never thought of that before. But, just for example, of the theme of water or the theme of air, all of a sudden you've got something to get your mind around, and that helps shape a creative path or journey. So I've been really enjoying that.
Oh, I can imagine, because especially if you have, like you said, 200 per session, you must have hundreds of sessions. And so maybe one time, the photograph doesn't speak to you, but when you have this theme, you suddenly look at it in a different way, and then, wow, I know what I can do with this. Yeah.
I actually have something like 20,000 images out in my Dropbox folder. And so having that theme, I can go back to previous works. Okay, I looked at this when I was doing water, and now I'm doing air, but it all has bubbles in it, and that's kind of cool. So yeah, it's continually revisiting and repurposing content, and you never have to destroy it. That's right. The beauty of digital is it's non-destructive edits with Lightroom and Photoshop too. So it's infinite.
Yeah, that's one thing too. That's absolutely true. I hadn't thought about that. You cannot have 20,000 canvases in your house.
No.
No, that will not fit. Wow, I hadn't even thought about that, but that's amazing. You're absolutely right. It's kind of the opposite, which is, how do you actually filter that? So that's interesting.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, you can't have 20,000 canvases in your house. One of my next project is my boyfriend and I are going to take one of our extra TV screens and use that as an art canvas. So instead of having, we have this very big space above, a granite slab, and we were thinking we would find the perfect piece of artwork there. Well, we can't quite agree on that. So by putting up this large TV screen, we're going to be able to continually refresh and just have an ongoing display of digital art. So, and I think maybe that's something the world would want,
Oh, absolutely.
Changeable art that you can just refresh and, build collections and, depending on your mood. It's kind of like,
oh yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. That's a wonderful idea.
Well, it's kind of like screensavers, I guess, your own personal screensavers with your own art.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. So are you thinking about doing the technology side of it too, or just the selection part of it?
Well, you can't hardly get away from some of the technology of it. Part of it for me now that I'm getting more and understand this is kind of new for me as well. I've really only been delving into it for maybe for the whole suite of products less than 2 years for sure. So I'm still on a learning curve with a lot of the software. But because it's when you're talking about time-based media, you've got transitions to deal with and effects that that you can play with. If you're working in, say, Adobe After Effects or Adobe Premiere, which is a video editing tool, and then Adobe After Effects is animation / video. So that just opens more doors to creativity. And I also wanted to mention just, I do use these really high-end apps, but there are free apps out there on the market. In fact, Adobe has 2, Adobe Voice and Adobe Slate. And Adobe Voice is a real easy breezy app to use on the iPad. So it has everything built into it. So it has music selections, it has stock photography, it has stock images, and it has a little framework. So, if you're just getting started as a storyteller, you can say, well, mine is an instructional. I want to tell a story, and it'll talk you through what to do. Say, okay, pick an image, put an image here, put your title here, add some text, and then you can add. It's just press a button and you can record your voice. So, in minutes, you can create a very satisfactory video, even if you don't have a library of images. And if you do have a library of images, you can use your own. You can use your own music. You can use your own art. So you can just pull it right in. And in minutes, you can actually create your own little video. They also have another tool called Slate, which does graphics using sort of that parallax, sliding big images with a little bit of text, and those export to PDF files. So say you were creating an ebook and you had a lot of text and you didn't want to do InDesign, keep your text in Word, and then create your art story over here in this app, turn them both into PDFs and bundle them together in Adobe's portfolio, PDF portfolio, so they come together like chapters in a book.
Wow.
So you have, hey, let's do a little intro with the art, then we'll get into the reading. Then we're going to bounce over and we're going to have a link to my Adobe Voice video that I uploaded to YouTube or Vimeo or wherever you want to host it. So the tools are there, and you don't have to invest in learning the whole Adobe suite. That does take, I've got some resources. I have to watch a lot of online videos to get me through some of this stuff. But it's changing every day. New stuff every day.
I'm going to ask you to give me a couple of those links, and I'll put them in the bottom so that people can look that up. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
And like I said, those apps are so easy. You have, they're very kid friendly.
Good. Yeah. That's what I need. Wonderful. Let's see. All right, writers say that the hardest thing about writing is getting your butt in the chair. Now, how is it any different for digital artists? Because you literally are sitting in front of the computer all day. So is that a problem?
Well, I do think chair sitting is deadly. We know it's just not healthy, and there's a lot of talk now about, I'll get a standing desktop now that goes up and down. I do have to take a break. I make myself either go ride my bike or go to a class and try to do something physical. It is a lot of sitting. It really is a lot of sitting, and that's but there are other times when I'm here for hours. And my boyfriend's like, okay, enough, and I haven't even realized how much time has gone by. So it's like anything else. When you get into the groove, everything else just kind of melts away, and you forget how uncomfortable you are, and you need to stand up and move your body.
That's right. Exactly. No, it's you get up crippled. The phone rings, you get up to answer, like, how old am I? 10,000? What happened?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. In your manifesto and ebook, you talk about how you want to encourage others creatively and find their best selves. And I have to admit, like I said before, that your energy, enthusiasm in your videos is contagious and made me want to run out and go and create. So have you thought of expanding your work into teaching, coaching, mentoring, something like that?
Yeah, I don't know what that's actually going to look like, but I feel like, maybe some how-to information to inspire people to do their own digital storytelling, because I feel like the tools, everybody has the tools. Everybody has a camera, or if they don't have a camera, they have a phone with a camera. An iPad has, video capabilities. It's very easy to put your hands on these tools, and people are getting real comfortable with posting stuff to social media. But when you do that, you're not telling a story necessarily. It's like a mosaic chip on the trail. You want to kind of gather those chips and put them together. And that's where I think maybe a how-to on digital storytelling might help people. And I could see applications for this for groups as well. If you had a club that was formed around a mission or a culture, or you had a group that was going on a travel trip, you could have everybody contributing to the pot of the content of what they saw on the trip, and then have a person or two or three, or it's collaborative as well. So I think maybe a how-to of if you're doing something like that, here's how to bring it all together and to create that digital story the easy way.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, I know that the Ignite people are just going to love that, because we're all considering workshops and things like that. And wouldn't that be a wonderful gift at the end of the workshop to say, "Hey, this is your work back at you in a storytelling fashion"? That would be wonderful.
Yeah,
a gift.
Yeah. So just, some basic skills of how to organize your content and make it easy, because the process, it can get messy and frustrating and difficult. And I'm kind of learning a lot of the what not to do's. So I'll have a lot of tips and insights to share around the technology and just the process. And then hopefully, for me, I don't want to lose sight of the inspiration piece of it. Because to me, the why of doing it is there's got to be that element of transformation. Like, if I'm putting together a digital book, I don't want it to read like, point A to point B. I want there to be that heartfelt passion, that transformation that either happens for the person that's creating the book, and hopefully happens for the person that's experiencing it as well. That to me, that's what I feel like is the superpower in the digital storytelling is, it's great to make it pretty, but it's got to have something in there that expands me.
A heart.
Yes. And so that is a piece of, what I want to give as well. And so I've been doing a lot of video logs to kind of just touch on, how to connect with that inner self, how to remove blocks, just conversations, artist to artist kind of conversations that I think help people keep inspired. So that's
really, yeah. I mean, not just that, but if you don't have a reason, if you don't have the why, if you don't have the joy, then the technology becomes even scarier, because it prevents you from doing what you want to do, which is bring that creativity, that joy, that inspiration forward. And if you're all terrified about the machine itself, then you never get past that. So there's a real need. We've all suffered the manual from hell.
Yeah.
You get a new thing and you look at the manual, it's this thick. Or they have it only online and you realize it's 90 pages long and you can't find anything in it. And you just look at your camera like, oh, it's a lovely camera. I can't use it.
Yeah. But I think where the world is headed is definitely video. I would say, our first go-to now is YouTube, even before digging up an instruction manual. Even if there was an online manual, we would still go to YouTube.
Exactly. 900 pages of unintelligible goo.
Yeah, just show me. Just show me. And it's not always easy, especially when you're talking technology, because there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of how-tos on technology. And I've watched plenty where, my screen doesn't look like your screen. Where's that button? Why am I not seeing that button? Well, it's because the technology is involved, and I'm watching something from 2012, and it's, 2016 now, and things aren't the same. So, there is value, I think, in people that kind of package together the latest, greatest, and but that's where it's valuable to subscribe to a learning service, which is what I do. I subscribe to Train Simple, and it's not expensive. It's like $100 a year, and they teach practically the whole Adobe suite, all the tools that I want to use. So, and then I can keep going back to that well.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, our time has flown by. I can't.
Yes.
It's already over. Is there any last little bit of tidbit or anything that you'll be doing soon that you'll want us to know about?
Well, I do have my Air book pretty far along, and I am doing something a little bit different with it, just because I've kind of been toying with some of the it borders line it's what I call lucid daydreaming, which is you're not asleep. It's definitely conscious. You can close your eyes if you want to, but I always provide visuals for people because because I want to. So I've built in some art prompts that are little lucid daydream experiences to kind of see if people can take those and run with them. And so that's part of my next book, and I'm just interested to see how people respond to that.
Okay, on the way, this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna enjoy this. Thank you.
I hope so.
And thank you very much for talking with me today.
Well, thank you, Kathy.
All right. Bye.
Bye.